Yeah, yeah, I agree. Now, so walk me through like what an official owes you. Like, so is there an assigning fee? Is there, like a registration annual membership? Like, how do you make your money, day in and day out?
I don't make my money off the referees unless they decide to buy like a shirt or slacks or whistles or whatever.
So that
Um,
25 that we'll just say 25 as the baseline. That 25
right.
is theirs.
I'm sorry.
That $25, we'll just use that for the baseline. That's their money. That
That's
$25.
their money. My fee is completely separate.
Okay.
On the invoice, it's separate. That 25 is theirs. I don't take a rebate or nothing. Union dues are $25 a year, and that kind of handles our operating costs.
So those
Arbiter,
600 officials, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't want to
yeah,
lose this. So those 600 officials that you talked about, 700, whatever it is that you email out,
yeah.
those guys are paying dues to you as ref union, or that you the assigner, or how does that work?
So, I mean, we're not Ref Union is not incorporated or anything.
Okay.
So it's a sole proprietorship, and so the money basically goes to me to cover the operating costs. Not all 600 pay it, by the way. Basically, you have to. It's almost a subjective call. I mean, I want everybody to know that hey, every year you're probably going to pay $25 just to handle all the costs of the
Sure.
website, the marketing, the arbiter, the payroll, end of the year payroll. I mean, shoot, those forms get expensive.
And those sweet
So
shirts you got on too.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so that handles all of that. Now, am I going to take it from everybody? No. Am I going to take it off the guy that did me a favor and came in to work 1 or 2 weekends? No. It's going to go to the guy that's like, man, you're working for me every single week. You're making $10,000 a year. You can give me $25 for your union dues.
Sure.
And so I've lost count as to how many referees a year actually pay that. It's
Hmm.
probably somewhere more around the range of 200 to 300
Hmm.
to give me that nice 6,000, 7,000, union treasury
Sure.
for me to keep going, trying to get new accounts and basically maintaining what we have.
So you make your money off of the sanctions that are hosting the tournament, pay you an assigner's fee
Correct.
on
I
top
tell them,
of
yeah,
what they're
I
paying
tell
the
them,
official.
I tell them the referees are worth $25 minimum. Once we get that off the table, now how much am I worth? Because
Right.
someone's got to put them all together on the schedule. You want
So
to manage all the staff? No, probably not. So
yeah, there's no way I would want your job or my assigner's job. There's no way. But you guys, whatever you get paid, you don't get paid enough. I can tell you that. So but what's interesting is that your client though is actually paying more than 25 per hour.
right. Now, I mean, I think I keep it fair and I keep it, what do you call it, ethical. An agent in sports gets 10%.
Hmm.
Kobe's in, everybody, for negotiating that contract. Same thing with me. Referees make 25, so, 25, 25, that's 50. And then I get on top of that between 8 to 12% based on the complexity of the event. If it's if it's like multiple sites, I charge on the high side because I'm probably going to have to hire a site director just to keep an eye on things for me. That's going
Right.
to come out of my fee.
Right.
So that's how I think of it. I think of them as two separate values provided for
So
a tournament.
so that's cool because like where we're at, and again, I know we're kind of comparing apples and oranges, but we get a base game fee in most sports anyway. That game fee is set by Georgia high school in our case. Now remember, I'm talking about the high school portion, not the public sector or the private sector. I'm sorry. So that game fee is set by them, and it's a 2-year game fee, so it sets for 2 years. And then let's just make the math simple. Let's say it's $100 for a game, and your association, it's up to that association on how much the assigning fee is. So that does vary by association, but I would say that the average is somewhere between 5 and 10%. So
Okay.
again, to keep the math simple, let's just say it's 10%. So you actually clear $90 at the end of the game. That's before, we get a little bit of fuel,
Right.
not much. But the point of the matter is there's a game fee and then we pay our assigner. Again, you're 180 degrees the other way. The game fee is the game fee, and then whoever hired you pays you for your service.
Right. I mean, at the end, I think the numbers are identical no matter which way. I just never liked reaching out of my pocket to pay somebody. It's like, why don't you just deduct it ahead of time? Why do
Sure.
you have to give me the nice high feeling of, hey, I made this much. Oh, never mind. It feels like a tax when it
Yeah,
doesn't have to. Just give me the money that's mine straight up. Take yours before I get it.
that's right.
But I mean, that's just an approach matter. I just think psychologically, mine has a better feel to it.
100% has a better feel to it because you're holding a number, and I guess that's what I keep getting back to. It's you're holding a standard for your group of assigners and your group of officials. Um, so when looking at the cost to do business with you and to work for you, the costs are very, very minimal.
Right, because again, I'm not trying to make money off the reps, unless you want to buy some sweet shirts. Um, I'm here to serve you guys. Make sure my expenses are paid. That's all I kind of ask for. And after that, I get my money from the clients, and
Right.
then I can work some games myself. Shoot, it disgusts me the way that assigners double dip, take money from the tournament director, and then turn around take more money from the refs. There should not be a fee to work.
The
I don't see any other industry where that exists, where you have to pay somebody for the right to work a day or a contract or whatever. There's an agent's fee. I understand that part. You can kind of skew it towards that kind of perception, but ordinarily, to pay to work just doesn't make sense.
but when you pay an assigner's fee, it's not only the perception, but it is actually when you do it that way, it is actually the official paying to work. When you
Mhm.
charge an administrative fee, it's the sanctioned, host of the event is paying the assigner to hire these people. You're right. It is saying the same thing, but at the same, but in the other argument, it's not saying the same thing.
Right.
It's just it's how you align your contract is really what it is. So let's kind of move on, man. I plan to circle back and talk to you. I love this conversation, and I think you have. I think we're kindred spirits on opposite sides of the country, for sure. But let's talk a little bit about just the economy real fast.
Yeah.
So right now I keep hearing the phrase unprecedented times, and I think that's, I mean, about the only way to describe it. Um, in 2009, 2010, when we had, a huge recession in the economy, Georgia particularly saw a large spike in registration numbers. I can't speak for your local market, but I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
going to assume that across the country followed the Georgia model and there was a spike. We had about a 20 to 30% increase in registration numbers in Georgia. With the given circumstance of unemployment rates right now at all-time high,
Mhm.
do you think that officials, organizations can capitalize on people trying to make some extra money?
Um, well, what do you mean by See, I don't like that word capitalize.
Well, what I'm
I,
saying
I
is you can increase the body of officials that are available to work for you, and I think
recruitment will
numbers
be
are.
easier.
Yeah, say again.
I mean, recruitment will definitely be easier.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we don't want to fall into that trap of now saying, "Hey, we got so many reps," because that kills our own leverage. We're
Yeah.
still going to be a rare commodity. The reps that are just going to come into officiating, to counterbalance the whole losing the lost wages thing, they're not going to be any good, not for a couple of years. You're right.
Yeah.
2008 to 2010, that cafeteria where we had our high school meetings, that was a full cafeteria. 3-4 years later, man, we got elbow room all around. That we look
Sure.
around like, is this it? This is our registration for this year? Oh man, we're all going to be working.
And
Fantastic.
you probably 3 years later, even though you were back to a similar number, the quality probably went down because your veteran guys got tired of it, and then some of the new guys probably stayed. So you probably had an overall negative impact 3 years later.
Well, what's happening is all the good guys are advancing. They're going to college.
Yeah.
They're the better referees are really the more intelligent people that have real jobs that
Yeah.
just, they get promoted or they get something better. They move away and they just leave refereeing because it was always an avocation for them. They didn't need it.
Sure.
And so that's what I see. I don't think it's going to be as bad this year though, because I mean, we're getting the stimulus, we're getting some protections this time. So yeah, it'll be a little easier to recruit, but I actually don't think we're going to get the huge spike in registration as we did in 2008, 2009. And that's good for us because again, there's a balance to this. I don't want to, those referees that come in, they're going to start working for those undercutters, and we don't want them to get more power. We want to maintain the quality that we have now and our leverage, so that to maintain the supply and demand on our side.
So that's actually a really cool point. When you're talking about going back to this whole sustainability word, if we had an influx of, let's say, a 10 to 15% increase, that your point is that could be a negative impact on overall body of officials. I agree with that. When you just look at the economic laws of supply and demand, that you lose your leverage because now you're oversupplied potentially. But what I like, I never thought about before, is we need growth, but we need a steady, measured growth over the next 5 or 10 years. We don't need a growth this year.
Right.
And so those spikes actually are detrimental. I've never really thought about it like that. So, so that makes it even more important when you see these programs like Say Yes to Officiating put on by NASO and NFHS and sponsored by the state groups. And when you see these national recruiting tactics, I think it's important to keep that in mind, that this, we can't just make a surge. We need to have, is this a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan? Are our kids going to do this? And, that's a really good point. So what would you say, just kind of shifting gears a little bit into your philosophy. All right. So you've got a handbook that is actually a good read if you got time. So your website, what's your website? Refunion.net, right?
Refunion.net.
Okay.
.net at the end. Somebody is squatting on the .com and wants $3,000 for it. I will not pay that. That's right. Not coming out of the union dues.
So, so I spent some time reading your manual, and first of all, if for anybody that's watching this, go to refunion.net and read the manual. It's good. It is the most direct, in your face approach to what I feel like is the truth. It's what everybody thinks, but nobody says. I'll just leave it at that. But talking about a few of those things out of your manual, tell me about your primary mission. So you just kind of have a totally different approach. If you had to wrap your mission into a shell, what would it be?
Just to get referees to understand the business element of it, just to create more of a labor-friendly referee force and have that mindset expand across the country. Right. I can only grow so big. I can only personally assign so many events a year before I just don't want to do it every single weekend in a hot, sweaty gym surrounded by people yelling. To make my job easier and to make the officiating craft better, referees need to understand what they're worth. They need to be able to negotiate higher. And so me and other assigners are all competing based on quality. Mm-hmm. And then best man wins, and we don't have to worry about price. And then all of us can get a nice steady income doing this, whenever we feel like. We don't have to work every week. Right. That's kind of the goal. It's really not that tangible. It's more kind of philosophical.
Sure. Yeah. That's kind of why I phrased it that way, because it really is more of just a new philosophy on how the approach to this whole thing. And I love it. I really do. I love it. So, when I look at your website, kind of going back to how your handbook's laid out, or your manual, it's an in-your-face approach. Why is that your method to the madness? Why do you choose that rather than the more politically correct way of doing business?
Because growing up or going through my 10 years as an official, it seems to be one of the most PC industries I've ever seen. You go to like a camp, and all the white guys, by the way, look the same. Short haircut. They got the pastel polos coming in. Everybody's afraid to say something wrong, something controversial, or even make a bad joke, because they don't want a wrong impression to fly out there and be misunderstood. I couldn't stand it. On the reverse side, you see the clinicians, and you see the camp director. You see these assigners. They are some of the most bombastic individuals I've ever met. I'm going to throw one name out there: Marla Denham. She was the former men's and women's assigner for the Big Sky. I mean, she said some stuff during the meetings that's like, oh my gosh. And I loved her for it. No camper would dare say something that she did. When I was in the development league, Monty McCutcheon walked into the meeting wearing a polo and sweatpants. That's how comfortable he was with where he's at. And everybody else had it perfectly tucked in and neat. And I mean, you're afraid to fart in the room. So I just thought, okay, I don't have to be that way. Since I do run the ref union, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be direct. And because it really is one of the best ways to get your message across. There's no need to beat around the bush or walk on eggshells.
Sure.
Let's call it, when we go to camp, you shouldn't be afraid to say that you're there to get hired so you can make a better living for yourself and your family. What else? You shouldn't be afraid to say that you're doing officiating to make money. Those should not be taboo things to say. They have been for like the last decade. And
Right.
so I'm like, in my organization, we're just going to, call it what it is.
Yeah. Well, I am guilty of having the same approach. I'm very in your face. The crews that I work on, I'm a football guy. I don't know that I've even never really discussed that with you, but and as a referee on a football crew, my style is very, very rough. I mean, it's very honest. I mean, when we kick one, we hurt. We talk about it. We exploit it. We go over it. We strip down all the feelings and we have a conversation as a crew. And even as individuals. And I think one thing it really does too, if I look at it on a micro level, it builds a bond that's unbreakable. So you take that to a macro level, like an association, so to speak. And if you have that level of transparency and truthfulness, it really does build a very solid bond.
And that's how you can train the rookie class and the younger officials. There have
Sure.
been times where they would blow a call and I would, I'm there on the baseline behind the veteran partner. And I ask him, hey, what'd you think of that call? He kicked it. And I'm going to say, you're going to tell him that later? It's like, well, no. And they're nervous. I'm like, why not? Tell your partner he effed up that call. If he gets butthurt, that's on me. I'm going to tell him, to kind of, put feelings aside. I mean, do it respectfully. You don't got a bag on the guy. But I mean, we're right now afraid to question the call of our colleagues.
Right.
While if you look at the pros, they do that stuff all the time. It's okay to have reasonable differences of opinion on a call.
Sure.
That's how we grow together as a unit. And that's why I do feel my unit's tight, because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to say anything I feel like saying. I encourage you guys to do the same. Criticize each other. Don't
Sure.
come into halftime just, patting each other on the back saying, hey, great, let's just do that again. No. Dig into each other and yourselves, obviously, as well. And let's get better let's use these games as money makers and a way to get better.
Absolutely, man. That's just how I feel. I get a little flack all the time for being that way, but man, I just it just produces, I think, more good than it hurts. And sugarcoating it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. But all right, I got a couple more questions here, and these are I think these are not hot buttons. I think these are things that are near and dear. And when we kind of briefly talked on the phone prior to this here, in your handbook, you talk about your request for solidarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Explain what you mean by that.
So our minimal standard is 25.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that all games should be paid for, unless you're giving us 24-hour notice of a cancellation or of a forfeit. Once it gets past 24 hours, you should be owed for that game. Mm-hmm. You've made commitments, you've taken time away from family or whatever. That's one of our biggest, that's one of our platform standards. Mm-hmm. Some tournaments don't do that. They pay below what we consider minimum wage. They don't protect the referees as much as we do. So here's the thing. I'm not going to blame anyone for going out and working, to provide for their family. And you can work these events, and I'm not really going to hold it against you. But you're hurting the rest of us by doing it.
Sure.
If referee A works for me, works for Yogi or any other assigner in the network, and they get $30 for this game, The next weekend, we don't have anything, so you're free to work for whoever you want. And they go and they work a very, very similar event for $26, $25, $24 a game. What does that do to us? Now that first tournament director is being like, wait a second, I got the same referee and I paid $4 more. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have bupkis to tell him, to be honest. And
Sure.
that's how you're hurting us. So that's why we request. We can't demand it because, again, you're an independent contractor. And if you need the money, go out there and make it. But if you can help it, don't be loyal to us as assigners. Don't be loyal to Ref Union or America's Finest Officials, Top Notch, whatever those groups are. Be loyal to the values that we're trying to promote. Our platform.
Your self-worth,
Right.
really is what you're after.
Right. Be loyal to that. Have solidarity towards the goal, not towards us.
Yeah, and I think too there's some difficulty in value. What is your value? Because everybody has a different reason. What I like about it is you guys are telling people what their value is, because you're sitting down, you're doing the numbers, you're understanding what the input costs are, you're understanding what the time is, and sometimes you can give people their own opinion, and this, I think you're doing that. I think you're doing a great job at it, and it's not in a bad way. That's not a knock. What it is you're creating a value and you're demanding that value, and I think we can learn from that. The last thing on my list here that I wanted to go over is, and I think this is really cool, is about Ref Union Cares. So tell me, tell us all about that and kind of how that came about.
Well, I think I first started because I was just bored. We got nothing to do right now as assigners. If this is your only business, like, man, what can we do? And we're worried about some of those referees that do this for a living. Like, this is their regular job. I would never advise it. I tell young people all the time who say, hey, Chris, I want to be a professional referee. Okay, get that stupid idea out of your head, because that's like a 1% chance. Get a regular job, just like pretty much I think 89 or 90% of NBA guys, as they were going through their journey, had a regular solid 9 to 5. Get that. And pursue officiating on the side and see what happens. And you can definitely commit to it. You can, give your weekends and summers to it, but don't give your life to it, because it's a complete lottery and crapshoot. Mm-hmm. Now, the guys that still are stubborn and do it, they're hurting right now. With no sports is completely shut down, and not only sports, but a lot of the things that are kind of complementary to sports. There are so many referees that are, for example, personal trainers. Can't work because the gyms are shut down. Right. There are a lot of referees that are bartenders. Bars are shut down. We have a referee that's a limo driver. Nobody's getting a limo right now. Right. We had one that's a wedding planner. So these guys, they're getting government aid, but sometimes it's just not going to be enough. So as assigners, this is the time where it's like, okay, we always ask referees to give back. Hey, do this scrimmage for free. Go to this camp and get better. Pay for that. Or train this young referee, shadow him again on the house, because you need to give back to the game. Well, it's a challenge. I thought of it as that this is now an opportunity for assigners to give back to the referees. So what we've done is the union dues I was talking about, that sits in the treasury for a long time. And those funds are just doing nothing right now because I'm not building any new projects. And there's really little upkeep, for the operations. So we made those funds available for referees as a loan, interest-free, for the duration of the pandemic. When games start back up and money now starts coming in, the referees have an additional 6 weeks, interest-free, to work off that loan. And it may not be much, but we're trying to do at least something. And for some guys, $200 to $500 might actually go a long way towards a car payment, utilities, or whatnot. And eventually, our own treasury got depleted because, more referees needed help than I thought. So now what we do is, okay, to those of you that have money to get through this, maybe your job continued. Maybe you're like an engineer that can work from home and, do all the programming. Pitch into, put some money into the treasury. You're going to get it back because, again, it's in the form of a loan. Referees, pull money for it as a loan. So once they pay it back, I pay you back.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just referees taking care of each other. And I challenge other assigners to do the same for the refs. And what bugs me is, okay, one, I asked a couple of my referees, has your assigner reached out to you? You know what's going on? Is he communicating? It's like, yeah, Chris, he sent us an email about 3 weeks ago saying that his camp might get canceled. I'm like, oh, okay. So it appears that now when times get tough and there's no games to assign, those assigners stay silent. If they
Yeah.
cannot use you, they forget about you. They can't push a camp on you. They're nowhere to be found. So this is kind of like a public call out to them. You can't make money off referees right now. There's no games to be had. So what are you now doing to help them get through this tough work stoppage?
And I think that's a powerful point too, because I think one thing I've learned from in our short conversation is that you can have a tough business mindset and want to hold a line, but at the same time, you can have a heart and you can help those that have put in the effort to build your brand, and I think that's pretty cool that you're able to go into your funding and give back to the guys that are out there humping it for you, so that's pretty cool, and I commend you. I have not heard of anything like that happening.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Court Club Elite, Ed Rush, Rob Rourke. They're going a step beyond. They actually created a foundations where they will fund referees' essential bills. They won't give you straight up cash. What you do is you tell them what you need. Hey, I'm going to be short on rent. Ed Rush, Trudy Rush, Rob Rourke, they will pitch in and they will make a payment to your apartment complex or wherever you need to get that expense covered. And you don't have to pay it back. Mine is just a simple loan. I don't even think it deserves that much credit.
So why don't we do this? Can you get me, how are they raising that money? Is it donations?
We started a GoFundMe campaign. That way it's also very transparent. If you donate to the GoFundMe/Ref Union Cares and you put your name on there and you also email me at the same time, I'll give you back a little receipt. And then once games return, those referees have 6 weeks to pay me back. Give me another 2 weeks to, get the logistics handled and get all that money put together. And then I pay you back. So really, all that is costing you is like the 2% service charge that the credit cards take,
Right.
for swiping your card. So you get all the money back. It's not, shoot, why wouldn't you loan money to people in need if you know you're going to get it back?
Well, what we'll do is we'll put the link in at the bottom of the YouTube video and maybe on our website, and that and kind of educate more people of how they can help, and then at the same time, maybe that'll be an inspiration to other states to kind of other outfits that are like us, to learn what they can do to help their own, So,
and I
that's
think
really cool.
Yeah, I think more important, because to be honest, we don't even need any more donations. We put the goal at 6,000 and we're already at 4,900. I got no doubt that our own Ref Union members will pitch in the other 1,100, and that should carry us through a month. More important is that you guys share this campaign. Put a little pressure on your assigners. Referees in some parts of the country are afraid of their own assigners. That's another thing about learn your self-value. Assigners are only as good as the referees that they get working for them. So they're not supposed to be your boss, and they shouldn't dictate your career. It should be kind of a mutual thing where you provide good work for them, they treat you with respect and give you good assignments back. You shouldn't be afraid to, go to them for help when you need it, and they should take care of their staff, in times like these. Because we're the ones covering their games.
Sure.
When the season's going on.
So it's almost like the assigners kind of have I guess a duty to uphold the ethical and the moral component, maybe even above and beyond some other positions in the association. So, but yeah, those are great messages, man. And we're going to talk again, we can probably talk about this thing for another hour. I'm gonna wrap this thing down right here. Number one, I appreciate your time. This is really our first interview that'll go live, so thank you for being the guinea pig. I think we had awesome first. I'm gonna have fun trying to put this together, and how people respond I think is going to be all across the board. So I appreciate you being honest, being upfront, and thank you for your time.
Oh, I had fun. Okay, Georgia officials, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Again, don't be afraid of your signers. Get out there and have fun with this, and don't think that you have to walk on eggshells. Don't think that you got to always be politically correct. Just stand up for yourselves in this field, both on the court and off the court. And if you have any questions, refunion.net. So you guys can always contact me for at least the next month. We're not going to be doing much. So please, these emails, give me a reason to wake up in the morning.
Well, I'm sure this will help get some interest started for sure. So I appreciate it. All right, bud. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.